Welcome to the show, everybody. My name is Mark Farzetta. This is the Farzy Show, presented by MyBookie, mybookie.ag. It's great to have you along for the ride. I was feeling a little down in the dumps yesterday, just thinking about the Eagles and the turnover on defense, especially, and how usually turnovers on defense are a good thing, but not in this regard, obviously. And trying to really get into the mind of Howie Roseman. And I know it's a lot of what we talked about yesterday. It's a lot of what we talked about all week with NFL free agency frenzy and all that stuff. But it really comes down to, as we talked about yesterday, the numbers, but it also comes down to a mentality. And I'll never forget reading this article. It was in Sports Illustrated years ago. And I remember reading this article, and it was highlighting a bunch of teams that had been to the Super Bowl and lost. And it was the Super Bowl jinx, the jinx of the Super Bowl loser, the curse of the Super Bowl loser, where these teams, they have these great years and then they don't return. They're not back. And 3 or 4 of the coaches that they interviewed, like Jim Fossil was the head coach of the Giants. This is how far back this goes, okay? And I remember reading it, and Jim Fossil and a number of the other coaches all said the same thing. Now, the Eagles obviously didn't lose the Super Bowl this year, so let's get that out of the way. But they have this, every team has this desire, and every team has this devotion to please the players that help get you that far. And there's Super Bowl winners that go on to win multiple. The Kansas City Chiefs obviously have done that. The New England Patriots have done that. The Steelers back in the day have done that, and recently they've well, fairly recently, I guess, in 2008, they won. But teams can build dynasties. And when you get rid of players that you, to use this phrase again, work, that's a problem. But when you look at the grand scheme of things, how are you going to save money to be able to pay the young players? How are you going to save money to make sure that the players that you have now that are growing are going to be able to stick around here and won't become one of those later cap casualties? So the Eagles in recent years have shown that they are willing to change their perspective, that they're willing to change their philosophy. And what I should say is they've changed the perspective of guys like Saquon Barkley, and they've changed their perspective with a guy like Zach Bond. Last year, the Eagles, almost exactly a year ago yesterday, as a matter of fact, the Eagles signed Saquon Barkley, which, as I told you guys a number of times throughout the season, it was a thing where I just stared at my phone and went, this isn't happening. This isn't true. We talked about it on this show. Oh, the Eagles are said to have interest in Saquon Barkley. And I'm like, oh, smart play, Eagles. Drive up the price for the Giants. I love it. And then they actually signed him, and I went, no way. I just stared at my phone like a confused dog. And sure enough, it happened. And they won the Super Bowl. How about that? The Eagles last year brought in a guy named Zach Bond. Guy who's been a special teamer. We know the story, right? And now they've changed their philosophy. They've changed it on running back, and now they've changed it on linebacker. They get somebody that they think could be a defensive player of the year. Oh, they're going to keep him. And that's what Zach Bond was for this Eagles defense last year. That's what Zach Bond was in the NFL last year with his new responsibilities. They have shown that they are going after football players and playmakers, which as a fan base is exactly what we have yelled and screamed for them to focus on. Forget about positions. Forget about a number assigned to that position. You won't go overspending this much money. You won't spend more than that much money for this position. It's an old Joe Banner philosophy. Running backs, this much. Linebackers, this much. High picks, forget about it. Not happening for those positions. Until you get somebody that can make a play for you. Until you get somebody, and boy, has this paid off. 2,000-yard season for Saquon Barkley, Defensive Player of the Year candidate for Zach Bond. It's all about changing philosophy. And as I started to tell you, I was feeling down in the dumps yesterday because I'm just thinking about the guys that I really liked in this defense that are here. Now, I wasn't fully expecting Milton Williams to be back here, and after seeing the deal he got, he definitely wasn't coming back here. I knew Josh Sweat wasn't going to come back here. I was pretty steadfast in the idea that Darius Slay wasn't going to be coming back, and now it's official. He's with the Steelers now, as is Kenny Gainwell. But now that you have kind of everyone out looking for who's going to be next, you kind of are drawn towards the draft. And when you're drawn towards the draft, you're, of course, again, talking about young players. You can get on rookie deals. You can have stick around for a little bit longer while you pay those other players. And you got to be prepared to pay somebody like a Jalen Carter. You got to be prepared to pay a guy like Cam Jurgens. You got to be prepared to play to have these guys stick around. You got to be prepared to pay a guy like Mekhi Becton, even though nothing's happened in that regard yet. So it's going to come down to the draft. And overall, Howie Roseman can't fall into the problem that some other coaches, GMs, teams, franchises have fallen into, which is just an overwhelming sense of, no, this guy helped me get to the promised land. Whether it's getting to the Super Bowl or winning the Super Bowl, I got to keep him around as much as possible. So that's where you have a team not signed Milton Williams to $104 million. No thanks, says Howie Roseman. That's where you don't sign Josh Sweat to a $74 million deal. Oren Burks is the one deal you look at and go, maybe you keep him around. But why? Why would I do that if I think I got Jeremiah Trotter Jr. also on a rookie deal that could take over that position? Why would I do that? It's all about investing in the young guys so that you can pay the proven commodities. Seeing if the young guys can develop into something special. And in the meantime, pay the guys that you know already are pretty damn special. You also have to think about bringing back Reed Blankenship. Now, here's the other thing, and I got into this when Darius Slay talked about the leadership in the secondary, who could lead the team. By the way, he totally knew Chauncey Gardner-Johnson was getting dealt. There's no doubt in my mind. But the Eagles right now had to have had some kind of conversation with Darius Slay where it's just like, look, there's going to be a lot of turnover this year, and we're not going to pay. And look, the $10 million deal is exactly what I thought Darius Slay would get. I thought he'd get in like the 9 to 12 million range. I wouldn't have done at 9 to 12 million from the Eagles. Would not have done that for the record. But I think we talked about that with Jeff Kerr last week, where I think we capped it out at like 7 million. Even that I think would have been a little steep. But I didn't want him back, and he's not back. So there you go. But there had to be something where he knew Chauncey Gardner-Johnson wasn't going to be here. And when I was talking about that last week with Darius Slay's words, I had gotten to the idea that, hold on a second, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is a year older than Reed Blankenship. Like, it's not like Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is a 32-year-old veteran and Reed Blankenship's 12. You know what I mean? So, yeah, Reed could be a leader, but somebody also you're going to have to pay. It's all about the mindset, the mentality, the plan, the vision of Howie Roseman. And yesterday we talked about how you don't have the blueprint of the offseason to say, oh, well, I hate this Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Look who they got now. It's terrible. It's going to be terrible going forward. Sidney Brown's not ready. And to be honest with you, I don't think Sidney Brown is ready. I have to see Sidney Brown be ready. I like Sidney Brown. I root for Sidney Brown. But the big thing is whether or not he can be a guy that can be harnessed, because he hasn't really given any indication that he can be. But I'm going to be optimistic that he can. But again, you don't even know if that's the deal, because we don't know the blueprint. We don't know the full plan. And you judge these moves on a case-by-case basis, one at a time, and instantly. There's no like, I don't know how I feel about Chauncey Gardner-Johnson not being here. No, I know how I feel. I know the proof is in the pudding. He's here. You at least go to the Super Bowl. I like that formula. He's here. You have a guy that's going to lead your defense in interceptions. I like that. That sounds great. So then I got into the conversation. I was thinking of the conversation that Chauncey Gardner-Johnson was having on social media about how he got the phone call, thought he was being pranked on April Fool's. I don't even think I addressed that yesterday. I said he thought he was getting pranked, but he thought he was getting an April Fool's joke. It was March 12th or March 11th. Weird, but that's how he thought it. And he said, yeah, basically the conversation it was a great conversation, but he's got Howie Roseman and the franchise has to pay the young guys. So as I was thinking about that after the show yesterday, I was thinking that's what you would tell somebody. That's what you would tell somebody. You don't want to hurt their feelings. You're just like, hey, you got to pay the young guys, man. But in the meantime, what you really did was, yeah, you might have saved yourself some money. But also, you bring in a guard. that could take over for Mekhi Becton if that really does hit the fan, and it does appear like he's not going to be coming back. He also get another pick, another 5th-round pick. And again, you also save yourself some money to go back to that. And then you see the stories that come out about Justin Simmons wanting to, or possibly entertaining the idea. And let's not forget, I think it was Olivia Reiner last year during the Pro Bowl of the Inquirer, put a story out talking about, I think it was Patrick Surtain and Justin Simmons talking about how much they liked playing for Vic Fangio. And this is coming, actually, what was this? This was about 2 weeks after the stories came out for the Miami Dolphins. Vic Fangio is too old school, and he can't talk to veteran players the way he talks to veteran players. And I said, if you're trying to see what Howie Roseman is seeing down the line, if you're trying to find out what Howie Roseman is thinking, what his plan is, what that blueprint is, would you put it past him to, yeah, sure, tell Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, hey, we're trading it because we got to pay young guys. And then he goes inside Justin Simmons? Would you put it past him? Because I wouldn't put it past him. The Saquon Barkley deal extension is historic. It's the highest money ever paid to a running back. But even that is not a typical Howie wow me move. I am waiting still for the Howie wow me move. Justin Simmons would be the Howie wow me move. Letting these guys go, letting these guys walk. Nature of the business. Keeping Zach Bond? That doesn't wow me. I expected it. Is it out of the norm of the Eagles? Certainly. But I think anybody realized that the Eagles were going to sign Zach Bond. Was there could have been a team? Sure, there absolutely could have been a team that went all Milton Williams on him and just blew him out of the water when it came to money. But the Eagles said, no, he's priority number one. We're keeping him here. We discovered this guy that was just sitting there and realized what he could be. He's sticking around. We got the defensive coordinator that saw that in him. That defensive coordinator is going to be sticking around. The system's going to be sticking around. We're going to keep him around. So they changed the philosophy there. It wasn't surprising to me. It wasn't a wow me type move. It was the move they should have made. But Justin Simmons would be that wow me type of move by Howie Roseman. And I also got into this article yesterday, and it made me go back and watch Howie Roseman's press conference at the Combine. But Reuben Frank wrote a great article. I'll touch on it in a second on NBC Sports Philadelphia that you should check out. Just kind of about all of this, the mentality. It was right where I think, not just me, but a lot of us, was right where our headspace was yesterday with some of the moves going on in the new league year. Happy New Year, by the way, officially starting yesterday. But Howie yesterday got into kind of the philosophy, or Howie at the Combine, again, got into the philosophy he has throughout this offseason.
Everything really is player dependent. When we talk about situations, it depends on the quality of play of the player, the person that we're talking about. And so you don't want to make any exceptions. Obviously, you have to have a vision of how you want your team to look in the salary cap era. You have a certain number of resources that you can allocate, whether it's money or draft picks. And so whenever you do something, you're taking it from somewhere else. I mean, there's no way at the stage we are with our team that we can do something major without it coming from somewhere else. So we have to make all those decisions. But I think to kind of put us in a box and say, hey, we're not going to play, and I'm not saying that you're saying that we're not going to pay because historically we haven't done that. I mean, part of what we do is evolve and look at things and see how things are affecting our team, how things are affecting the league, and seeing our place in that.
The thing that I have gone back to a number of times out of that press conference from Howie is the idea of taking away from one thing to add to another. Well, the Eagles have taken away from their defensive line with Josh Sweat, and I wasn't the biggest Josh Sweat fan, but the production was there. He certainly took away from a guy that was your second best defensive tackle after Jalen Carter. You took that away, and now you also took away Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Who's your best safety? I know the opportunities are there for the young guys to step up. Moro Ojomo, Sidney Brown, I don't want to make it seem like I'm against any of these guys, but you just had guys that you knew worked. But you've taken away and you've kept Zach Bond. You extended Saquon Barkley. You lost Kenny Gainwell. You just added A.J. Dillon, who missed all of last year with a neck injury, but a good running back. Also, I was reading he can squat 700 pounds. So that's 1,300 yards, or 1,300 pounds that you could squat in the backfield between Jalen's 600 and his 700. That's pretty damn good. And obviously Saquon Barkley, he's no slouch when it comes to squatting as well. So that tush push better not be banned. You know what I'm saying? But you got to take away to add. What Reuben Frank got into in his article yesterday, just to give you a couple of ideas here, I really did find a lot of this interesting. When you talk about investing in the future, the Eagles, after the trade with the Houston Texans, they have single picks right now, first, second, and third rounds, fourth rounds, 4 fifth-round picks in this year's draft. Look ahead to next year's draft. First, second-round picks, plus 3 third-rounders, 2 fourth-rounders, 2 fifth-round selections, and 1 pick each in the 6th and 7th rounds. They are stacked in that regard. Now, you think about, what does that mean? Because some people might look at that and go, oh, outside the first, second, or third rounds, does that even mean anything? Well, yeah, it does. And this is why. Here's what Reuben Frank points out, NBC Sports Philadelphia. For his approach to work, meaning growing the talent that you draft, obviously. Listen to this. 17 of the 18 players Howie Roseman has drafted in the first 4 rounds since 2021 have developed into important pieces to the Philadelphia Eagles. The one exception, unfortunately, and he was on the show, so shout out. Zach McPherson is the only exception. 17 out of 18 players. That's a pretty good track record. And now, again, you get into the young guys on this team. You talk about Sidney Brown, talk about Jeremiah Trotter Jr., you talk about even Nakobe Dean, all those guys that you're looking to step up. Nakobe Dean continue the role. Sidney Brown be tested if that's going to be the plan, because as of right now, that looks like the plan. But again, as of right now, this is a free agent frenzy, and he got Justin Simmons. He's got the Eagles high on his list in places to play. It's going to make for a very interesting rest of the offseason because we're 3 days in, and the Eagles have, I still believe, some holes to fill. It's absolutely amazing when you look over what's been going on with this team over the last couple of days in terms of the turnover. And then I think it was also, was it Reuben? Oh, no, it was a Jeff McClain article I was reading yesterday that really covered a lot of different things with this Eagles team. But most notably, how the Eagles were due for, I hate to say the word due, but this kind of year where there was going to be heavy turnover, this kind of year was, the Eagles were on this trajectory. You had market-setting deals with Jalen Hurts. I mean, look at the money that Josh Allen just got. You're talking about $330 million versus Jalen Hurts, $251. On the cheap, a Super Bowl winning quarterback. Not too bad. You also signed A.J. Brown. You also signed Devontae Smith. You also signed Landon Dickerson. You also signed Jordan Mailata. There's a lot of guys here. Still looks like Dallas Goedert's going to be on the outs. Eagles are going to be Eagles might be the youngest team. Right now, they're including Darius Slay and James Bradbury, who are post-June 1st designations. The Eagles are still the second youngest team in the NFL. Think about that. That's with those guys on the roster still. The second youngest team in the NFL. So you talk about building for the future. The Eagles are still pretty set to build for the future. The problem is you're building to get to a point that you were just at. You're looking to maintain with a new roster, especially on the defensive side of the football, and keeping the big pieces. and making sure that you can re-sign one of the big pieces as well in Jalen Carter, for instance. So that's what we're going to be looking at when it comes to this Eagles team. By the way, Eagles, as of right now, still with including the June 1st designations for Darius Slay as well as James Bradbury, Eagles are $24 million under the cap as of right now. $24 million. Justin Simmons, just saying is all. It was yesterday. I saw it on Pro Football Talk. Justin Simmons playing for the Eagles, high on the list. He was on the Talkin' Ball podcast. Loves him some Vic Fangio. Loves him some Christian Parker, Eagles defensive backs coach. A lot of good things. There's a lot of good things of Philly. Offense is clearly one of the most talented in the league. Offensive line is unbelievable. What the defense did in the past season, go to the Super Bowl, is crazy. To win that Super Bowl is crazy. You can tell the leadership is there, top down. Oh, man, he is just... Justin Simmons is just ringing that little triangle. Come get me! I hope that's the case. I hope that's the case. Did I talk about that yesterday? I did talk about that yesterday. I was doing the Fox 29 hit on Tuesday morning, and like, who would you like to see the Eagles go after? I was like, Jonathan Allen. I'd like to see the Eagles go after Jonathan Allen. I walk out of the studio. I get in my car. I put my phone up on the dashboard, or the little thing you can hang it on, whatever, a holder. And right before I start the car, so I wasn't driving. Right before I start the car, I look at the phone because I got a notification, and it was Adam Schefter. Jonathan Allen officially signs with the, or Jonathan Allen signs with the Vikings. Agrees to terms with the Vikings. And I was like, so much for that. So much for that. I mentioned A.J. Dillon coming here. Mentioned what it could do for the tush push. But all in all, the thing I liked about Kenny Gainwell, he was a change of pace guy. And I think you need that change of pace guy. A.J. Dillon's coming here to Philly. He's going to be 27 years old when the season starts. He actually turns 27 in May. Played in 15 games in 2023. Hurt his neck. Missed all of last season. He's got 2,400 yards over the course of a 4-year career. His best year was 2021 with the Green Bay Packers, 800 yards. Played in all 17 of those games. 5 touchdowns on the ground. Also had 2 touchdowns through the air. He's got 34, 28, and 22 catches over his last 3 years playing in the NFL. So 43 catches is definitely someone you could say is going to be able to catch the ball out of the backfield. Not that I think they're going to be using him for that. But if you're talking about a change of pace guy, I think there's 2 elevations with this A.J. Dillon move and with the Kenny Pickett move. There's 2 elevations here for the Eagles that make me think, all right, you're obviously moving Will Greer, Jesus, Mary and Joseph, Miss Scoozy. You're obviously moving Tanner McKee up to be the backup quarterback as of right now. What's the next move? Is Will Shipley going to get more snaps? Is he going to be the change of pace guy? Because right now you got a ground and pound type of running back in A.J. Dillon. You already got that in Saquon Barkley. I mean, change of pace. I mean, it's not like he's slow by any means, but you got 2. He's still a powerful running back. Him and A.J. Dillon. That's not bad. That's not bad. I also thought maybe if the tush push does get banned, A.J. Dillon's the one that punches in at the goal line, because they have given the ball to Saquon. He's gotten stopped at the goal line. Jalen Hurts, not so much. But, A.J. Dillon, newest member of your Philadelphia Eagles. So there you go. Another day of free agency. Still going to be looking forward to see what goes down with Mekhi Becton, if we get a final answer on that. And keep kicking the tires. Keep kicking the tires on that Justin Simmons thing. Let's see what happens there. Oh boy, getting a glimpse at the chat already. I'll put it to you like this: one of the things Ruben, actually, I think it was his last sentence in his article. And I think it's a mentality that a lot of people have, not even in the back of their mind when all this is going on, but as this is all going on, they think the same thing. And I even put it in yesterday's headline. In Howie we trust, but Chauncey Gardner-Johnson being traded is a tough pill to swallow. It's all going to be part of a bigger plan, right? Well, Howie has basically killed it. And as I always joke, this job was a lot more fun when Howie sucked at his job. But you look, since he retook responsibility, if he made a mistake, he's corrected it. We could all yell and scream about Justin Jefferson and Jalen Reagor. We could certainly be pissed off about that, but then, A.J. Brown happened. Years later, but still, it happened. Devontae Smith happened. Saquon Barkley in the offseason happened. 3 Super Bowl rosters. 2 Super Bowl championships since Howie Roseman has retaken responsibility of the Eagles roster. That's pretty spectacular. And the last line Ruben has is there's no reason not to trust him. No reason not to have faith in what Howie's doing. No reason not to have confidence. And yeah, even though something might go down that you don't like, okay. I'm the last person to say the phrase "we'll see," and I do hate that phrase. But at a time like this, I'm not going to lose my mind over Chauncey Gardner-Johnson not being here anymore. I am going to have faith that it is going to be part of a bigger plan. Whether it's the obvious and just get younger. That's it. Just get younger. Or it's stirring up something, cooking up something, like getting a Justin Simmons here in Philadelphia. Did I say Justin Simmons? Justin Simmons here in Philadelphia. So that's the way I look at it. Hey, the Philadelphia Phillies, ladies and gentlemen, they start their regular season in 2 weeks. Baseball. Walking outside, yes. Oh, it's a beautiful thing. Little Toots says to me, I pick her up from the bus stop. She says to me, she goes, Daddy, can we play baseball in the backyard today? Oh, we signed her up for softball. It smells like spring outside. You know what I mean? Nice day. It's 60 degrees plus. It's awesome. It's fantastic. And it's in the air. And the Phillies got the Braves today at 1:05 in Clearwater, Florida. Anderson Pilar against Christopher Sanchez. And Christopher Sanchez won't be the only active lefty for the Phillies. Cole Hamels will be in the booth, baby. I look forward to hearing what the stories Cole's going to be talking about. And it also made me think about something we didn't even talk about last week, was Jimmy Rollins addressing the team and saying, if you don't want people talking about 2008 anymore, win it. And I thought, damn, Jimmy. I absolutely love that. I think Bryce Harper told that. Can't remember who it was to, but I know it was the WIP. I can't remember if it was morning or afternoon. But Bryce Harper saying, yeah, Jimmy came in and talked to the team, said, yeah, go win it. I was like, yeah, you should do that. That'd be fun. I'd love that. There's one battle, if you will, that I've been keeping a close eye on in spring training here. And I've talked a lot about what the Eagles need to do next season, and obviously when it comes to just overall strategy. And that is, I know the chat told me before, and I'm going to say this again, but 482 touches is still 482 touches. I don't care if he's getting smashed in the backfield and is able to still recover and get 2 yards. It's Derrick Henry runs is the way we talked about in the chat the other day. But there's still 482 touches. You're still playing week 1 through the Super Bowl. You got off in week 18, so that's cool. You had a couple fourth quarters off. That's cool. But it's still a lot of games. Still a lot of touches for Saquon. So maybe throw the ball a little bit more this year. Don't become a passing offense wholeheartedly. Just a little bit more to spell Saquon. I've talked about that as a strategy. Well, if I had to say one thing had to be different as a strategy for the Philadelphia Phillies, is that JT Realmuto can't be an everyday catcher. You can't have JT out there 140, 150 games. You can't have JT Realmuto out there for that. That's insane. Even 130 is a lot. He is washed by the time the playoffs come around. So the one thing I've been really paying attention to this year has been whether or not you actually are going to have a backup catcher that can play a substantial amount of games to spell JT Realmuto. Garrett Stubbs ain't that guy. I love Garrett Stubbs. Garrett Stubbs, friend of the show. I love a vibes guy, Garrett Stubbs. You know what I mean? But Garrett Stubbs can't be out there for, including pinch hits, 70 games? 80 games? Like, he can't. No way. Rafael Marchand has gotten a little bit more of a workload, pretty even. I think it's 8 games to 7 games. At bats, he's gotten, as you would assume, about 5 or 6 more at bats for the Phillies in spring training. Actually, I have the numbers right here. Rafael Marchand, 18 at bats, 9 games. Garrett Stubbs, 7 games. Oh, geez, no, excuse me. Rafael Marchand, 8 games. I was right. 1 more game. So Rafael Marchand has played 8 games, Stubbs 7 games. At bats 17, Stubbs 13. Hitting wise, Marchand has hit 235 in that stretch. Garrett Stubbs 385. So Stubbs is making the most of his opportunities. That's for sure. But spring training numbers, I'm not going to go crazy over. I feel like it's worth giving it to you, but I think we've seen enough of Garrett Stubbs to realize that he can't be the regular, like once a week type player for JT Realmuto. It's got to go to one of your younger guys. And quite frankly, a guy that came up and just, you already knew that Rafael Marchand was just either the heir apparent to JT Realmuto or the guy that would at least be your consistent backup catcher to JT Realmuto for 162 games. So that's the way I look at it. The other thing is the business aspect of it, and that's options. Garrett Stubbs still has 1 option left. Rafael Marchand has 0 options left. So I would expect, and I saw Todd Zalecki write about this as well, I would expect Rafael Marchand to be on your opening day roster for the Phils. As far as the rotation goes, to nobody's surprise, Taijuan Walker would go to the bullpen. Still a very expensive bullpen piece. But it would be Wheeler, Nola, Suarez, Sanchez, Luzardo. No particular order there, other than Wheeler being your starter. So that's the way that looks. But that's what I've been paying attention to in spring training. And I also just saw Larry Boa talking about this squad. Larry Boa is just nothing but baseball, man. He is all baseball all the time. Love that guy. And yesterday he just talked about how, teams like the Dodgers loaded up. And he just brushed it aside like the Dodgers weren't anybody. He just said, we beat Dodgers. We beat the Dodgers 5 out of 6 last year. To hell with them. Kind of was the attitude of it. I threw in the to hell with them. But just listening to Larry Boa talk about baseball and his confidence in this team this year. I mean, this team is going to be, from what it seems, surrounded by guys that really want to get over the top. And I know the Phillies, I think for a lot of people, they're not in the same boat, but they're approaching that same kind of feel that the 76ers have given people. They're not to that extreme, but it's like there was a lot of promise, there was a lot of hype, there was a lot of money spent. Where's the results? And unfortunately, what we have seen, to reference 2008 again, 2008 at least started at the top. Now, 2007, they went to the playoffs finally, and then they lost. Swept out against the Colorado Rockies. Then in 2008, they won, and then every year was a step backwards. The Phillies got to the World Series, and then every year since, it's been a step backwards. Can we get going in the right direction again? I wouldn't mind some 500 baseball early. I know it's going to make everybody panic. I know it's going to drive everybody insane. Wouldn't mind some 500 baseball early just so I could feel like the best baseball is in front of them. And I've had years like that. Last year was the exception where they were phenomenal out of the gates. and then they hit an absolute wall and were terrible. But if I could get some decent baseball just at the beginning, see good watchable baseball in the beginning of the year, just so I could feel like, as I felt in previous seasons, their best baseball still in front of them, their best baseball still in front of them, and then the obvious, just please stay healthy. Please stay healthy. Cross my fingers for it. That's what I look at there. Sixers. Speaking of those Sixers, by the way, another perfect loss for them. They lost to the Toronto Raptors. So the Raptors still have one more loss than the Sixers. They both they have 22 wins. The Nets have 22 wins. Really what it comes down to, do I have it in here? No, it's in my other file. As of right now, let's see if I can get this in here in time. Yes. Okay, cool. Here's the way it looks right now. The worst 6 teams in the NBA. Sixers are covered by the crawl, but they're at the bottom of the list there. So the Raptors have one more loss than the Sixers. So right now they're the 5th worst team in the NBA. The Nets, also 5th worst record in the NBA. Sixers have the 6th worst record in the NBA, but they're in the 7th spot right now. And you desperately want them to get to one of the bottom 6. Losing to the Raptors last night certainly helped that cause, and it was another perfect loss. Why was it another perfect loss? Well, unfortunately, it wasn't a super perfect loss because the Nets weren't in action. They played the previous night. That's why they're still a half game worse than the Sixers. But it was a perfect loss because you had things to watch that were entertaining, at one point horrifying, and on top of it, you got the loss. So, and it was to a team that you were, I hate to use the word chasing, but chasing in the division. So the Sixers, or should be in the standings. So the Sixers last night had an interesting thing. First, Quentin Grimes, 29 points in the game last night. That was fun to watch. Jeff Doughton Jr. had 20 points. That was fun to watch. Adem Bona had a steal at the opposition's foul line. In the defensive end, had a steal at the foul line. And then I think it was Kelly Oubre. Don't call me on that. Don't quote me on that. I don't remember. But instead of dishing to a guard or a wing, Adem Bona, the 6'10", 6'11" rookie, went the length of the court for a slam dunk, threw it down with great authority. It was one hell of a play. It was the best play I've ever seen him make. He had 12 or 13 last night, 9 rebounds in 23 minutes played. And that was pretty awesome too. The best part was they lost. The worst part was Lonnie Walker. Lonnie Walker checked into the game at like 6:45 of the first quarter, and about 6:20 of the first quarter went up for a rebound, got it, and came down violently on his back. It looked terrible. Now I'll start at the end. No concussion. But he went up for the rebound, came down on his back, but like right around his shoulders he came down on, snapping his head back on the court. The back of his head from the initial angle looked like it smashed into the ground, into the floor. Like it was one of those moments where you're watching it live and you go, oh my God. And then they showed another angle where it didn't look, hey, look, it would still look bad, but it didn't look as bad. So they take him out of the game. He didn't return, tested for concussion. He was good to go. I'm sure still monitoring the situation and all that. But that was a scary moment last night for the Sixers. As far as today goes, the Nets play the Bulls. Pelicans are hosting the Magic. These are all teams, again, the Sixers are chasing to be the worst in the NBA. Sixers and Raptors play Friday as well. Sixers play the Pacers on Friday night at the Wells Fargo Center. So they'll have the Pacers at home. That's the way that one breaks down. Hey, let me tell you about the Game Time app. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use promo code FARZI, and get $20 off your first purchase on the Game Time app. Want to go to the game, the concert, the comedy show? Game Time app has you covered. Also use Game Time Picks. The Game Times Picks feature on the Game Time app filters out all the fluff so you get right down to it. The best seats at the best prices on the Game Time app. Want to go to the game, the concert, the comedy show? Game Time app has you covered. Use promo code FARZI for $20 off your first purchase on the Game Time app. Oh, 2 things before I get to the chat check. First thing, I've never talked about college baseball on this show, but this is worth talking about. The Minnesota Golden Gophers baseball team yesterday was hosting the Kansas Jayhawks. And this has never been done in Major League Baseball. College baseball, the Kansas Jayhawks hit 5 consecutive home runs off the Golden Gophers. And they did it at TD Bank Stadium. U.S. Bank Stadium. Yeah, U.S. Bank Stadium. The same field where the Eagles ran the Philly special. Just so, there's the Philly tie-in there. But one of the guys that hit a home run there for the Kansas Jayhawks was Craig Counsell's son. So there you go. But 5 straight home runs hit at the college level. I think it's the 4th time it happened in college. It's never happened in Major League Baseball. 5 straight home runs. One other thing I want to mention, if you guys didn't see this, it's fantastic. Do you remember all those years ago? Of course you do. Maurice Cheeks helping that little girl out sing the national anthem in Portland. Well, the New York Knicks, who you probably know by now, Maurice Cheeks is an assistant coach with, played the Portland Trailblazers last night. And you know who sang the national anthem? The same little girl. She was 13 at the time. Natalie Gilbert, now Natalie Zito, came out and sang the national anthem at the Portland Trailblazers New York Knicks game with Maurice Cheeks in attendance. It's one of the classiest things I've ever seen in sports. Little girl, she said during an interview last night, she said that night, she remembers it well, obviously. She said she was feeling sick. She wasn't feeling herself. And she just went out there and she blanked. She just totally blanked. It happens. It happens with Broadway actors. They just blank. And she's called on that moment many times throughout her life to just be like, I can get through anything. And it's one of the classic things I've ever seen in sports. Maurice Cheeks go over to her as the head coach of the Portland Trailblazers and say, no, we're going to get through this, and singing it with her. It's incredible. Absolutely incredible. And then last night, before they brought her out for the national anthem, they told the story. Like, if you remember back in, I think it was 2006. If you remember 2003, if you remember, a little young lady tried to sing the national anthem, had some struggles, and then Maurice Cheeks is there with his hand on his heart, listening to the national anthem as she's singing it last night. And he's just, he was like he was beaming. It was like he was watching his kid. It was a pretty cool moment. So kudos to the Portland Trailblazers for making that moment happen last night. That was pretty cool. All right, let's get into the chat check and see how you guys are doing on this wonderful Thursday morning. Goodness gracious. What's going on? April? Hello, April. Danny, what's going on? Danny, how are you? Good morning, Jay. And Howie we trust says Fly Eagles Fly. STP, what's going on? William Stark, good morning, Farzi and company. Wonder how defensive tackle Gabe Hall Baylor will progress this offseason. You mentioned him before. He was a practice squad player. Yeah, maybe another guy they're looking at to produce or progress, I should say. Because Costello, what's going on? Monkey Gemini. Okay, and how do we trust? Sean Kilrain, what's happening? Farzi officially quad squad with the signing of A.J. Dillon. That's a lot of power. That's a lot of power in that. Oh, I should also mention Ben Von Sumeren gets re-upped. Britton Covey. I should text Seth. Britton Covey gets re-upped. That's pretty great. Brent Von Sumeren, also your fullback. Let's not forget. Wine Diners Wine, Howie 101. Zig when everyone else is zagging. Ground and pound offense with the stop-the-run defense. Never saw this day coming as an Eagles fan after Buddy Ball. I've said it many times over. It's the first time in history where we could say the Eagles abandoned, not the run, but the Eagles abandoned the pass. NJ Fishing Maniac, what up, birdies? What up? Kevin D, hello. Sean Kelly, Howie season, 20 draft picks next 2 years. Pretty bonkers. Nick Wade, good morning. Top of the morning, chip season birds. Huh? Sean Gillespie, good morning. Jason, what's up, Jason? Phillies going for cheap. It worked once, says Monkey Gemini. Good morning, fellow football knucklehead, says Wayne the Pain. What's up, Wayne the Pain? Paul Pastor. I know, 2,400 yards. It's what Barkley had in close to 1 year. Mark 1982, let's be real. CJ was the weakest link of the secondary. You're embarrassing yourself, far as you compare the situation to 2023. You're nuts if you think he was the weakest part of the secondary. He was their, just in the safety position alone, he was their best safety. I mean, if you're talking about the weakest part of the second, I would still have him above Darius Slay. You have the shutdown ability of Quenyon Mitchell. You have the shutdown ability of Cooper DeJean. So if you're saying somebody's not as good as them, that's still pretty high praise. But I totally disagree. I think that's bonkers. Sean Kilrain, what's going on? Eagles announced the signing. Yep. Farzi, he needs to change into 44. What? The officially Oh, they officially labeled him as a fullback. Interesting. I didn't see that, Sean. Thank you. Mark 1982 again. Howie, please trade Mailata so far as he can have his wowie type move. That wouldn't wow me. That would be terrible. I don't want Jordan Mailata traded. And that's the exact move Howie wouldn't make. He wouldn't sign someone to a long-term deal and then trade him, unless he's Carson Wentz, of course. But that's not what I'm talking about. That's not what I'm talking about, Mark. Justin Simmons to the Philadelphia Eagles, 3 years, $27 million, $17 million guaranteed STP. All right, I'll take it. Let's make it happen. Sean Kilroy, Justin Simmons or Marcus Williams I see coming here, Farzi. Interesting. The Justin Williams thing is more intriguing to me than Marcus Williams. Oh, the GOAT. I don't want Simmons unless he was released. Okay. Third round. Yeah, but he was a practice squatter, no? Did he get put on the practice squad? Pretty sure he got put on the practice squad. Jim West VT. Is it bad that I want Barkley, AJ Dillon, and Cam Skeetaboo? That would certainly be ground and pound. That's for sure. Steve Patton, what's going on? Good morning. Jason A, just not a third rounder with us. I just forgot. Oh, Gabe Hall you're talking about. Yeah, but yeah, like I said, practice squad guy. Lewis Klein, Sidney Brown roll, and Sidney taking CJ's. Remember, CJ was hurt before he came back to Philly. Yes, he was. Paul Mancini, what's going on? I believe signing of AJ Dillon is a plan in base. Wait, hold on. Is a plan in case the NFL banned the tush push. Okay, you and I are we had a similar thought. Yeah, you and I had a similar thought. Tush push banned. You got AJ Dillon. I don't think they're signing anyone because of the tush push. I think they're signing him because they needed a running back. Gabe Hall went undrafted. All right, there's confusion on Gabe Hall now. Let's end this. Gabe Hall, undrafted 2024, Baylor. Undrafted, selected. Practice squad. Okay. Won a Super Bowl championship. There you go. That's all you need on his Wikipedia. Ooh, Jason A, I love this theory. Yes, Farzi, but the Eagles stashed a lot of guys there, clearly because of the exodus we just had. There you go. Safety Marcus Williams has been very disappointing with the Ravens and even benched. Ooh. Farzi, Howie must have really liked Tristan McCollum since I mentioned his name yesterday. He was the last one off the bench. Maybe that's why they had all those guys going to the fourth quarter. Maybe they didn't play their starters in the fourth quarter, not because it was a backup or not because it was a blowout, but because they wanted the young guys to get reps in the Super Bowl. Hey, we might be back here next year, so let's at least get these guys some reps because they're gonna be leading the charge next year. Wasn't Sidney Brown one of the guys that got toasted on one of those deep touchdowns? Lewis Klein, Cade Stearns will also compete for the safety play. There you go, Paul. Appreciate it. Thanks for joining the show. Let's sign Simmons, says Michael. Let's do it. I'm for it. Let's party. Thanks, everybody in the chat. You guys are wonderful, as per usual. Morning Rush brought to you by Sky Motorcars, SkyMotorcars.com. Sixers are off till Friday, where hopefully they'll lose. We'll lose to the Pacers. Flyers, ladies and gentlemen, it ain't pretty. They've lost 5 in a row. Tonight they got the Lightning dropping the puck in South Philly at 7 o'clock. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. This is the Farzy Show presented by MyBookie, mybookie.ag. Hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Be back with you guys tomorrow. Hopefully talking about a fun-filled day of free agency and talking about Justin Simmons being an Eagle and a Philadelphia Phillies game in spring training against the Braves. We'll react to that as well. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Catch you guys tomorrow.